Good evening, folks. This is January 4th, 2017, and I'm just going to discuss with you about sovereignty, what it means in practical terms, and specifically how it relates to the American people in its founding documents. So, people that have pursued consciousness, self-growth, mindfulness, meditation, what they're actually doing is learning about their inner connection to all that is, which ties into the creator of this world. So our founding fathers actually understood universal law, which is consciousness and self-awareness. First, know thyself, because if you don't know who you are, what makes you tick, what inspires you, what motivates you, you cannot be a creative being. You're just going to be a follower, which is basically what our cabal want you to be, is a follower. That's why they spend billions of dollars in movie, TV industries and fashion industries and music industries in order to mold how you think, what you value, what is considered social correctness. So that's not what universal law and self-consciousness and mindfulness advocate. They advocate to know what motivates you as the individual, because only once you know yourself will you be able to know how to move forward with goals, projects, creation. And many of the greatest minds, especially Einstein, he made something of a quote that creativity and imagination is worth more than knowledge, because knowledge is already past tense, meaning it's already been done. Creativity and imagination allow new adventure, new inventions, new breakthroughs. So without creativity, there cannot be progress. So it's a no-brainer that the cabal doesn't want progress, doesn't want breakthroughs, doesn't want creativity, because then you're thinking on your own. And they want you to follow in such a way that it's always profitable to them. So for many years, basically since the very inception of America and its revolution, it was a fight, a spiritual fight for self-destiny. And so I'm going to read the Declaration of Independence from 1776. It's only all of 5 pages, which 3 of those pages are signatures. So it's not long reading, and it's fairly straightforward English, although it's worth going through a law dictionary word by word as much as possible, because there are specific meanings in the words. So when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, mankind, are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, Governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. And I will save you the time to hear me read 2 more pages, but it pretty much reads like what most Americans are suffering today, and the rest of the world as well, because America's always been a light and a goal for the rest of the world in its principles. Now, that's not to say that our country has lived up to its founding documents and mission and purpose, but that is our legacy. And I'm just going to read for you the preamble for the Constitution of 1787, which was ratified in 1789. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, there's a few wordings that are extremely important in law, and most attorneys around the world are not taught law. They're taught statutes, codes, ordinances, and acts, which are revenue policies, which always create revenue for the corporation that they're under, whether it's state of, city of, county of, federal agency of. Okay, these are all corporations since around 1863, around the Civil War, and it had to do with finances. Always has to do with money. And so what happened is these corporations, once you turn something into a for-profit corporation, it loses the sanctity of trust, which trust is why you have all these oaths of office, that they will uphold and defend the Constitution. Now, there's been a huge mix-up and miseducation that most Americans think the Constitution are our rights. That's not the case. The Constitution is a work policy. It's a work contract for government employees that were supposed to work in fiduciary trust. When you work as a fiduciary, you have to put that other person who is part of the trust ahead of your own personal wants and needs because you're in trusteeship. But when you turn a government from a trusteeship and fiduciary into a private corporation for profit, then it has no more sanctity than a Walmart or a McDonald's as a private corporation with policies. And so the American people are not required to keep government policy unless they work for the government. So if you're not a government employee, it is not your job to fulfill their codes and statutes and zoning and everything else. Now, there are other experts that go into a lot more detail. There's a lot more information on YouTube or, surfing the net. One of my favorites, it's 800 pages, but it's worth it. It's multi-authors. They are from 300 years ago, onward. Everyone added to it, so it's multi-authored without names because they didn't want to be attacked, but it's called the Redemption Manual. And that is very accurate history that is not taught in public schools, private schools. It's true information. If you pursue the facts and treaties that they mention and look it up for yourself and read it for yourself, you will see that what they're writing is true. Now, another major issue in law is in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about mankind. What most of our statutes, codes, ordinances, and acts all state are persons. Person is a corporation. It's a fictional entity, and they're trying to pervert the English language to consider a living man or woman or child as a person, because what they've done with the birth certificate is create two accounts. One is the live being, which goes home with the parents. The other one, 10 days later, is registered as a corporation in your name, and according to your weight, the government is given from the trust fund a certain amount of money towards your weight, which is why they care if the babies are underweight. It always fascinated me that they don't care about the amount of babies that are killed. What they care about is the birth weight, because they get paid according to the weight. So whether the baby survives or not, because America, for being a very modern country, has one of the highest infant mortality rates, but all they care about is the weight of the baby. And that's why, because they get paid by the weight. So in law, declaring yourself a man or a woman or people is a very different status than a person. Now, you can control your person, meaning you can fill out, if you read through the Redemption Manual, it talks about how to be a secured party creditor, in that you put in your dibs on the record with UCC 1, which is an international commerce record. So all the courts use them, all the Secretary of States use them, the Secretary of Treasury uses them, the whole world uses them. It's set up by the Vatican. All countries use it. So when you file your dibs on your birth certificate, on your identity and your person, or straw man, or however you want to call it, you come first, because once you're over the age of 21, you have the right to claim that. But it's been hidden from us because it behooves the governments, the government corporations, to make more money off of your corporate person. So it's very helpful to file dibs on your secured party creditor under UCC 1 and then start perfecting your landed estate with your birth certificate at your birth county or birth state. A lot of these states, they just have one city that you have to file all your vital statistics in, because they have all kinds of municipal bonds that they create off of all of the states' birth certificates. So a lot of states, they reduce it all to go through one of the major cities. So check where your recorded deed for your vital statistics is. Sometimes it's still in your county. Most of the time, it's the major municipal corporation in the state. So double check that, and that's where you're going to record your landed estate. And I do have some information, and I do have further information on proof of life, etc., to file on a landed estate. And what that does is it creates dibs on who has control of your birth trust. And once you correct it and authenticate it with your birth state Secretary of State, and then file it wherever you're living in the county recorder office so that it's on record, no one has the right to claim over you, because you have the highest and perfected claim on your estate. Now, in regards to being a man or a woman or a people, because you're a living being, you're a vessel that is embodying and holding the life force of Creator. Without that life force, we would just be clay, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So what really animates us is the divine spark. And once you realize who you are and your divine spark, and put the claim into it and start acting in creating your own self-destiny, you are deserving of the status of sovereignty, which means that you control your destiny and you pursue your happiness as long as it's not infringing on other people's happiness. So with that, that's an introduction to sovereignty. So I know a lot of people are going to have questions because they're not used to the fine hair definitions, but in law, that is exactly how it works. It's fine hair differentiation in phrases and wording, etc. So if you're going to pursue the path of self-destiny, you're going to have to learn the meanings of words and declare them. So with that, good night, and we'll be back soon.